Yeah, and you've seen it from the big boys, Amazon, the whole experience from you clicking buy
Mhm.
to if you've got Prime next day, if you're lucky enough for that. Um, could I ask a question on the branding?
Mhm.
When did the decision come in to change the branding? Was that from feedback, or was that something in your head from day one?
Well, so all of the original stuff I'd done myself. And Baron, I know how to do magazine layouts, and I did all of that kind of thing myself. I had a bit of a brain block, so I used a local guy called Chris Nutman to help me with the original logo, which is it looked like a folding map. Again, quite obvious, but where you've got roadmap, MBA, it looks like a map. Fine. That for me was a good enough minimum viable product to get out there to get feedback. But again, I knew, and it's no disrespect to Chris's work or my own work, it was fine, but it wasn't world class. So for me, the best company, and I've known this for years just because I've been around a bit, it's a company in Middlesbrough called Better Agency, and they're really, really expensive, but they're really good. And they were my kind of bucket list if I could ever afford it. But just being honest, that was like 20 odd grand that I paid for the brand. And a lot of the brand creative, they basically went through a whole process. They came up with three kind of main types of designs. And as soon as they showed me the light pathway, which was you've got there, which is for anyone that can't see it, it's like a big squiggle. But the idea is that for one, so knowledge is meant to illuminate your path. It's to help you grow. It's to help you boost your career. And actually, it's a journey that never stops and it keeps moving. So what we wanted was something that was quite distinctive, that looks expensive, and you can tell it hasn't been done on the cheap. But actually, because I stream and I do a lot of video, I wanted something which could be animated and really take what was just a basic concept, but be able to use it in live streams, videos, podcasts, social media posts, print. But it's different to anything else that's out there. And it was the balance of where I could have happily stuck with what I had, but again, nobody would care. When people actually, it's really funny that when I first saw the brand, I wasn't, I could tell it was good, but it grew on me over time. And then what you can't see on this monitor, but on my phone, everything, I had it as my background on my phone just to get used to it and see is it distinctive. And actually, you can just about see it behind me, but the logo and the R, so the R is obviously for roadmap, but it's the same light pathway shape. So it's the implementation of that same thing everywhere. Actually, it's in the bottom corner of my screen as well. It just, if you want to build a world class, it would be like trying to make world class sportswear with crappy materials. It's not going to happen, and you need the finish and everything to be spot on. That it's, for me, it was a worthy investment. That actually, a lot of stuff that you put money into brand is all about perception. So if people don't perceive that it's of a higher quality, and so much of this is intangible, they're not going to buy the product. You might sell some, but if you're trying to genuinely make something which is world-class standard, like Apple, like Samsung, like Gymshark, whatever, things like a brand are really important. That it takes time, and it's the message behind it. And one of the big things that, I know you're on Instagram, but I wanted the photography to go with it, because again, I've been into photography for a long time, to really reflect what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to just use stock images, because for me, you can tell if it's a stock image or not. So when I started my first ever photography business, there was a guy called Jez that I used to play in the Sheffield basketball team with. These are both as students. Fast forward 15 years, I'm doing quite well. He carried on doing photography, and it's his photos from his Instagram, which I bought from him. I've got about 25 or 30. And, but my point is, it's very cool people, very good photos, but there's depth within the brand, that it's not just stock. It's actually, I know the guy, they're his friends, they're real people in and around London. But it's that authenticity that I think you can't fake, is where if I hired a photographer and some models to go and pose around Newcastle and take some pictures, for me, you can tell that it's not genuine. And it's 95% of people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the tastemakers and the people that matter, and me, because it's my baby, I care. And for me, it's funny. The more, you used to hear stories about Steve Jobs to be obsessive about every little detail, I kind of get it. And I think most founders will appreciate that the more you kind of build your baby, you get obsessive about tiny little details. Even, for instance, when I had these made, when the print first came back, more green soaked into the paper, so it's more green than I wanted it to be in terms of light pathway. but it was to do with the type of ink and how long it sat on the page. But again, I wasn't happy with it because it's the details that really kind of matter. And it's, as a founder, you have to be obsessive about every single thing, because if you don't care, nobody else will. And I think it's part of these things that you learn over time, that I'm almost embarrassed sometimes when I'll apologize, but I will flag up every single thing because I want it to, I want it to be good.
Yeah, no, I suffer from that as well. Um, we hired people through the Kickstarts, so new hires, fresh graduates, all that sort of stuff. So we had to get them up to speed on our branding and things and stuff like that. And yeah, there was a lot of it's not really our colors. Could we do this colors? And you actually feel a bit bad really telling them, but at the end of the day, it's like, if it's going back to the whole experience. If that experience isn't consistent throughout, then people are going to get maybe the wrong message, or they're going to avoid looking at your posts or things like that. So yeah, I think I try to push a balance of progress and perfection. Sometimes I just have to compromise and go for progress. But
So
yeah,
I never let it hold me back.
Yeah.
But like, I almost suffered burnout last year because I was working so hard on all the details and getting version 2 done and launched. And I've got some other stuff coming as well. But it was almost that, you need to look after yourself. And that's one of the things that I've really learned. Because the big thing for me is that really good entrepreneurs or founders have a work ethic that you want it to be perfect. You really kind of put the graft in. Yeah. And that reflects on everything that you do. But because, I rarely understand what pays my bills, and it's doing stuff for other people, but they hire me because I put the same attention into what I do for them as what I do for other people. But that is the reason why I'll hopefully be successful, is where people aren't that bothered about branding will never create a brand that people care about. And the irony is that the really, really good brands make it look easy.
Yeah. Oh, they do. Going back to the Apple example, so simple, but everything is so sleek and lovely, and just it's user friendly, but it's not. It's it just lets the user just flow through the website or the phone or whatever they're using for that. So yeah, no, I appreciate good branding. Even as we're thinking now, I'm thinking of the founder session stuff. It's like,
it's nice.
Yeah, but I really like it to be better. It's that sort of process in your head that you think is like, oh, I could make that better.
But you've just launched it. One of the big classic things, and I see this a lot, people are often too scared to launch, so they get paralysis and they do nothing.
Yeah.
There's people on the course that have dreams to launch a business. They can't even do the business, but they're too scared to launch the website because they're worried about the website not being perfect. And my point is, launch it and then just keep iterating, just keep learning. And then because the funny thing is, and it's been one of the biggest changes for me, is that when I first decided I was going to set up on my own, I had a lot of money in the bank. I had enough money to kind of survive for 2 years. If I didn't earn any money, happy days. So I had the comfort to kind of do it. It took me probably 6 months to get to the break-even point where I was earning more money than I was spending, if that makes sense. And luckily it grew from then. But what's quite funny is that in your first kind of year, you have a lot of capital costs to set up, for example, a studio, print costs, design in the book, getting everything up to speed, and people trying to get awareness of what you're kind of doing. But you get to a certain point, and that's, again, paying myself less than minimum wage. I'm really doing the proper entrepreneur hustle of driving a 10-year-old car with a dent in the door. I used to have a Porsche, but it's that I'm really kind of owning the hustle, because I'm really enjoying it. My fulfillment comes from the business. But now I'm at the point where I've got a new website coming. I'm hopefully going to have an app coming, but I've kind of paid for everything already, certainly within this tax year, which means that from April, when the new tax year starts, I'm going to have so much money to spend on good stuff like promotion and travel and whatever, that actually there's distinct differences in businesses, especially small businesses, founders. You've got a kind of break even, which the chap I mentioned before, to go from whenever you launch to make enough money every month to cover your bills. That's the hardest bit. Then you've kind of got the building of your app, your process, your product is difficult, and it takes time, and that's difficult again. But it's a different kind of difficult, because at least you're making money, you're surviving. And then when you kind of hopefully get to where I am now, it's the ability to build on the groundwork and the stuff. So I don't have to build another studio next year. I've done it. I know how it works. I know how to stream. I know OBS and that kind of thing. That now I'm going to have all that money. I mean, you're talking like £60,000-70,000 that I can now deploy on paid ads or attending conferences or going to San Francisco and speaking to publishers or whatever, that I didn't have last year. So it's staying in the game. It's like a boxer. You need to stay in the fight, not go down, because it will get easier over time. And but it's easy now to look back on the past kind of 2.5 years, because I kind of got through it. But I always had this kind of guiding light that I knew what I wanted to do. And I always had a vision of how the dream one day to have my own studio was genuinely a dream. And it wasn't that long ago where I moved from my bedroom to this. But you need to have, like, I already know what's next and what's next after that. And it's just having the dream to really go for it and have the conviction to really go for it, that, I could pay myself a lot more and have a nicer life. But then what I'm essentially doing is taking oxygen out the business. As where one of the things that you kind of find with age is that, it's where you get your fulfillment from. And for me, I love the creative. I love doing this. I love talking to people. And actually, that's what makes me happy, not getting paid a lot of money. So actually, I'm enjoying this process. It's the lowest I've ever been paid, ever. But I'm really enjoying it. And it's that process that, touch some wood, in 5 years' time, the roadmap MBA will be worth $100 million. I'll still keep doing it because I enjoy it. But I'll be 45. And you know what I mean? It's that kind of balance of just, I know what the dream is. And then realistically, because it's making money, I'm already at the point where I could live off it. That actually, the other problem I think a lot of founders kind of go is that you have the goal and the dream, and and it's part of the reason why at the start of the course we really look at what are your aims, goals, and objectives. What is it you actually want to do? And the one that I joke with people about, that part of my dream was to work 4 days a month. That was the joke. And almost, so I'd do my streams, do my stuff, sit on the beach, read, travel, talk to people. But actually, so I'm purposely building the machine to allow me to do that, if that makes sense. A lot of people will build a business, but without the clear goal in mind. And what actually often happens is that they build something that they don't want and won't give them what they want. But it's just how you kind of go through that process. But most people don't realize that I could actually, in theory, work 4 days a month now if I was happy to leave it as is. But the truth is I'm not. And it's the whole Icarus thing. And I'm going to keep plugging away. And you'll see me plug away every week for the next 3 years. And then at some point, people go, it was an overnight success. It was easy. He was lucky. And they'll never see it, but I won't care, because I know the time and effort and the detail that's gone in, and people I go with on the journey and working with different people. And you do watch what other people are doing and you respect it. That it's nice to kind of go through the people. It's the classic cliche now where people say, really enjoy the journey. That's the best bit. And because I work with quite a lot of businesses where we grow it and sell it and we actually have the exit. The truth is, if someone dropped 10 million quid in your bank account today, you'd be happy for a week. And then you'd be like, okay, what am I doing next? And the same is true that there's a whole thing, section on ikigai, which is your meaning, belonging, your passion. What do you want to do for the rest of your life? And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, regardless if it makes money or not. It just happens to be doing quite well. And it's that just passion project, hopefully, is what's going to pay off my mortgage and